What the heck? There we go. Much better. I have no idea if interest rates are going to go down or not, but certainly everything is trending in that direction. I don't know why we feel this good. I want to feel good. I want this economy working. I want it going and growing and flowing and moving and all the things. Interest rates down. Well, energy prices are down. Well, housing has moved a little bit better. So maybe there's an argument. But the real argument is Wall Street wants it. And whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. That's right. I went show tune. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. The watch is the Munchner from Flederman von Riest. Let's the games begin.
Not always start with us, but they will come home and end with us. We know that Malcolm X warned us that if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing.
I mean, that's no way to start a show, Tony. You can't start a show with the mayor of Baltimore making the claim that the Trump administration is coming for Black Americans. You know, I should have warned you, producer Landon, maybe we need the finger on the dump button. I don't know. This just came across the transom.
Now more than ever, we have to know what we stand for and who we stand with. Senator Hayes, there is no plan to 50. You are either with us or you're against us.
Oh, there's a lot of that kind of talk. A lot of that kind of you're with us, you're against us talk, which, you know, politically, I could at least understand. It's in many ways a turn of phrase. The problem is with the political left, which has given up the very concept of being the Democratic Party, they mean you're with us or we start shooting. You disagree with us and we start shooting. If you want to argue that the political right is violent, you can go right ahead. But I argue that the political left is institutionalized within the party, the violence. They've internalized and institutionalized certainly the anti-Semitism. This is who they are. And they're telling you in every single way that not only is the violence good, not only is the violence acceptable, the violence is commendable, and the violence shall be lauded and glorified. And we've got enough data points to prove that true. Now just add on the mayor here. Tony Katz Today. What are you doing, everybody? 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. That's how you get to be a part of the program. Also live streaming on the YouTubes, youtube.com/Tony Katz. You should go be a part of that immediately, if not sooner. President Trump in South Korea making trade deals. The trip so far, I think, can be seen as a success. I'm not quite sure how else to view it. Is it sound the trumpets the greatest thing that ever happened? No, I'm not getting that vibe. As with all of these trade deals, like sometimes they just come across as trade agreements, right? Frameworks. Framework is nice. Framework is always nice. But what you need is money changing hands. And until we see that in any of these trade deals, all we have is, well, it could be an opportunity. Well, opportunity is better than not. But opportunity is not cash in the hand of farmers or ranchers or in the hands of American business. It's a step in the right direction. But also this entire trip, every part of this trip was about building up to the big dog, which is the conversation with China. So when you hear that President Trump has created some kind of trade deal with South Korea, well, good. Happy to see it. As is reported, this is about $350 billion that would be invested in the U.S. economy. A lot of love in the room from South Korea. South Korea, of course, going through its own political scandals where you had the president of the country saying the press is against us, so we're going to engage a level of martial law and we're not going to have any votes in our government here. And the other side of the aisle said, or I should say the entirety of the I don't know, they don't call it a General Assembly. They said, you're nuts. Get back to voting, everybody. And then, this guy was taken out of power. So they have been through a ringer. The countries are going to keep, according to this framework, reciprocal tariffs at 15%, as they have since August. They've agreed to apply that rate to automobiles and auto parts. Now, if you're South Korea, that's Kia, kids. That's Hyundai. You drive one. They're everywhere. Now, they might say, well, actually, this is better because we had a 25% tariff. Now we're going to have a 15% reciprocal tariff on the cars. This puts us in line with Japan and with Europe. This is good news. See that? Good news with tariffs. Yeah, I'm still opposed to the concept. I had a whole conversation late last night discussing this subject. Things were so late that I actually was like, I'm not gonna make the morning show. I didn't do my morning show this morning because I was in the middle of these things. I'm like, I gotta take advantage of some opportunities. Some of it was social, and some of it was deep into the weeds. You still can't sell me on tariffs. Although President Trump wants to sell everybody and their mother that tariffs are such an important part of what we're doing, and they are indeed, in his view, a big part of national security. Now, he was aboard Air Force One when he said it. I haven't had a chance to check how clean this audio is. Now, I'm not going to listen to anything about Mexico right now. You know what? Let's hear what they have to say about Mexico.
Because, we're doing very well with that extension. We get a lot of tariffs. They're paying a lot of money. As you know, a lot of car companies are moving from Mexico back into the United States. They took our car companies a long time ago, 30 years ago and more. We lost about 57% of our automobile manufacturing over the decades. And it's all coming back because of tariffs. It's all coming back. And the tariffs are really national security as much as anything else. It's national security in many ways, but
a year ago, it seems, we made an argument right here on this program. Right here, you and me, we made an argument that the president would be far better off if he would explain in national security terms tariffs. Here's what it means. Yes, it means you will pay more, and here is why it creates a value for us overall. Here's how it increases our negotiating position. And here is how it betters American lives. If the argument is a tariff is national security because it keeps jobs safe, that's protectionism, I'm not down. If we want to argue that tariffs give us a better negotiating position, okay, that's a tactic. And we take a look at South Korea and we say, well, we brought auto tariffs on South Korea from 25% to 15%. They're now going to invest $350 billion into the United States. I guess these tariffs worked. And now we've got the 15% tariff going on for forever. The question is that good for us? I'm not arguing against $350 billion in investments. I'm questioning whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze. Is anybody going to take the time to do the economics on this, to go through the data and answer that question? Because right now, based on every data point I have, everything I look at, everything I read, the answer is no. Not with every nation do we need this. With some, maybe. If we're discussing an abuse, a usurpation, an aggressive attack on our economic system that others are utilizing through tariffs, I don't mind with hitting them with something to get them to come to the table. Doesn't mean that it should be there long term. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything regarding a tariff can be seen as national security. I think that when you take a look at national security and tariffs regarding Mexico, it is viewed differently than as we view it with, let's say, China, where we could play that game. We can make that argument, and that argument is sound. But tariffs have nothing to do with the drug war and the human trafficking that is taking place at the border and the attack on American citizens at the border. It's a different argument. You can't engage that we have these new trade deals with Mexico and Canada and renegotiated trade deals with Mexico and Canada and then say we need tariffs for national security. That dog won't hunt. It just doesn't. But the idea of explaining the value of the tariff as a tactic is something that I wholeheartedly agree. That we should be at least open to the idea of the tactic as the tariff. And then say we got what we needed, or we got a lot of what we needed. Let's move that to the side so the American people aren't paying more. But again, we should look at the larger picture. Malaysia, Japan, South Korea. We said in this tariff conversation, in this trade deal conversation, you need a trade deal with South Korea. You need a trade deal with Japan. You need a trade deal with India. And I believe my other one was Vietnam. You create those trade deals, and that's where you're going to put the pressure on China. Well, Malaysia, South Korea, and Japan, trade deals. And here comes China around the corner. We were just early to the conversation. This is exactly what this trip is about. This trip is about setting up the dominoes of pressure. And of course, on cue, without missing a beat, the Democrats have decided to say, Trump is losing the trade war with China. Why would you say this? Why would you think to say this? Why would Democrats say, oh, that's right. First of all, they're not Democrats. They're progressive leftists. The Democratic Party is dead. The leftists killed it. They keep talking about how the leftist needs to satisfy, the Democrats need to satisfy their leftist base. No. That's nonsense. There are no Democrats. They are the leftist base. Whether it's Elizabeth Warren or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders or Chris Van Hollen, they are the leftist base. There are no Democrats. They're not satisfying anybody except themselves. They and their base are one and the same based on the data as presented. And here they are. And the day before Trump meets with Xi Jinping, really, I mean, depending on how you look at the time zones, day of, how do we undermine Donald Trump? How do we undermine him with our biggest adversary? And they're like, we know how. And they do this. Undermining America, undermining American opportunity, undermining American strength. Well, as long as we can get a dig on Trump, as long as we can hurt Trump, that's all that matters. As long as we can support our commie brethren in Beijing, well, then we're good. That's what they did. President Donald Trump is losing a self-inflicted trade war with China. All I know is you have opportunities under Trump and you had none under Biden. I would argue, would have had none under Kamala Harris. And when the best you can do is the opportunities, take them. Take them all. Let's hope they develop into very good things. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Rate cuts. That would not be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think we're there, but the market doesn't care what Tony Katz thinks at all about rate cuts. Just none of them care. It's a pity, but it is true. It is factual. And one has to assume that things are coming in a very, very large way. Oh, and then I've got the Jake Tapper audio. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're going to clap for Jake Tapper. You're going to be like, what's happening here? You clap for him here when he exposes the truth about people like bigot Louis Farrakhan. But listen, don't ask me to think that Jake is a guy you should have serious respect for. When he says something right, you say it. But you didn't know Joe Biden was mentally incapacitated, and then you write a book saying, I, for one, was shocked. Oh, there's little place for you at my Thanksgiving table. It's not like you were looking to be at my Thanksgiving table, but I will have brisket and a fried turkey. It's actually going to be an infrared fried turkey. I cannot wait to try this. And then I saw somebody deep frying a prime rib, and I said, challenge accepted. So that's gotta happen. By the way, my hair is everywhere today. You see that? Look at that. That's nuts. That is kooky. Kooky. What is this? Francis Ford Coppola, the Godfather, ladies and gentlemen. No. He's not the Godfather. He directed the Godfather. And Francis Ford Coppola is 86 years old. I did not know that. I got to tell you, it took me a second to be like, oh yeah, he's still alive. Which is a terrible thing to say. You should know these things about one of the greatest directors in history. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. He is auctioning off parts of his personal collection because of an investment he made in a film that went, I believe the Latin term is yeah, I think I got that right. I think that's accurate. He invested $120 million of his own money into making this science fiction epic. Listen, Francis, if you had asked me, I would have told you very clearly, don't try to be James Cameron, all right? You know. I just didn't want to get any more copyright infringement, so I'll stop it right there. He says the movie left him broke. It was released in September 2024. Megalopolis. I never heard of Megalopolis. Did you, Producer Landon? You ever hear of Megalopolis? Yeah, I don't know the film at all. Let me look it up here. It's set as an alternate 21st century New York, reimagined as New Rome. And it stars Adam Driver. And it got 4.7 out of 10 stars. Huh. That's not great. Anyway, $120 million of his own money, and it grossed $14.3 million. Now, listen, I am not a math expert, but I'm pretty sure that isn't what you're going for. So he is selling 7 of his prized watches. Now, you guys know I do work with Flederman Von Riest. This is a watch group assembled right here in my beloved Indiana. Shop.vonriest, R-I-E-S-T-E, shop.vonriest.com. You can use promo code CATS and get your discount. Assembled, I should say, right here in Indiana. Spectacular timepieces, automatics. You've got quartz. You've got the mechanicals. I'm wearing one of the mechanicals right now. Spectacular timepieces. Love them. Love working with them. They're prototypes. I've never known how to pronounce it. Is it Jorn? FP Jorn? It's a prototype that starts at over $1 million. He's got 2 Patek Philippe's, an IWC, International Watch Company, IWC, Portuguese or chronograph, and a Blancpain minute repeater. Well, I guess I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be busy watching because there's no way I'm bidding $1 million on a watch. Now, will I be surprised if it sells for over $1 million? No, I will not. To say this was Francis Ford Coppola's watch? Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. But what does it say about Coppola that the movie didn't work and he's feeling kind of broke? Some people say how tragic. If your life was about creating art and this was the art you wanted to create, did it matter the money it made? Oh, that's a heavy thought. Are you Michael Bay? Are you Coppola? And he's had some stinkers in his life. I wonder if he regrets. That's a conversation I'd love to have. This is Tony Katz today. $1 million is a lot of loot. $1 million is a lot of loot. Listen, I've only purchased one thing at the Mecum auction. It was a 1996 Ford Bronco, full size. It was an OJ Bronco in red. It was great. I am not going to this auction. I am not buying any Coppola watches. I think that's pronounced Breguet, Breguet. I think that's what that is right there. Breguet Classique. From Breguet. Yeah, it's one hand. on that timepiece, and not all of them. It's a very, very, very pretty piece, is what it is. But I don't know. I just don't know. This is a very, very specialized buyer who wants this movement and everything else. So I don't know what this stuff could end up going for. It sells standard for about 50,000, and you're like, did you say 50,000? Yeah, $50,000. So that's one. The FP Journe, I think it's pronounced Journe. It is so cool. I can't even take it. It is a spectacular looking timepiece. I think this is the one with the titanium hand. Someone's going to buy it because it was on Coppola's wrist as a matter of a watch. I don't know. Patek Philippe, that would be a nice one to have in the collection. Patek would be nice to have in the collection. I do not have any Patek Philippe. I have one Rolex right now, one Tudor right now. I had two Rolexes. Sorry. I had a third one and I returned that because it wasn't for me. I have got two more to add. That's not a place where I do a big collecting. This is not it. I'm not actually much of a collector of much. It's like the bourbon. Like if you look at my bar right now, okay, hold on. Let me see if I can count. 1, 2, 3, 9 million. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 30 bottles on top, and there's probably 60 bottles underneath, and that's just here. Never mind what's behind me. Never mind where I keep some of the good stuff. All of it's meant to be drank, drinking. I don't know what it's meant to be imbibed. Sure. Do you want to open it? Open it. It's fine. It's not meant to be collected. I'm not interested in the collection. Same thing is true with watches. When I got into it, I wanted to understand it. And I was buying different things and understanding them and seeing what some friends were doing and realizing what they were spending, but the amount of time they were spending in understanding where the market was, I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. And so I've culled the collection. There are only a couple pieces I want on the Rolex side. And really it isn't many. And then there's a couple other pieces that I would love to get. And I do. I mean, I wear these now. The Von Riest I wear. It's my daily. It is my daily. Shop.vonriest.com. Shop.vonriest.com. And in the end, the watch tells a story. It's why I don't like the Apple Watch. And if you wear one, hey, do what you want. What does it matter what I say? The watch should tell a story. The watch should tell a personality. The watch should share something. I think it's art and it's an expression of you, and I think it should reach out in that way. I don't think a watch should be soulless. Let's get back to the radio show. Years ago, I was accused of mocking Joe Biden's stutter. It was a lie told by liars. I'm saying right now, Media Matters flat out lied, and a host of others did. Look at this guy on Fox News stuttering, making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. Never happened. Tony Katz today. And people are like, are you going to apologize? I said, if Joe Biden wants me to apologize, I'll be like, hey, that's not what I was doing or saying. While I've got you, do you even know what I'm doing or saying? Like, are you aware of where you are right now? That would have been the conversation. Should I apologize? I'm not apologizing to anybody. I didn't do anything wrong. And people on social media were screaming and yelling. What I had said was, this was during the presidential election, and they were talking about the debate with Donald Trump, and the debate was going to be, the question was, do you turn down their microphones while the other person is answering? We're going to turn down Trump's microphone. And what I said, and I would argue not as artfully as I could have, I talk all the time. Sometimes it doesn't come out perfect. Same thing is true in your life. Same thing is true for everybody. It's just one of those things. When it happens, you got to own that part of it. I could have said it even clearer. What I said was that it's not a question of whether or not we hear Trump. It'll be a question of whether or not Biden hears Trump, because Trump's going to keep talking and Biden's going to keep getting interrupted. Is that what the Biden team wants America to see? A stammering, stuttering Joe Biden. Can't believe Tony Katz said that. Oh, and the screaming and the yelling. You can't make fun of Joe Biden. By the way, you're fat and you have beaver teeth. I swear to you, beaver teeth. And at that moment, I was like, do I? Grabbing my phone. I'm like, my wife, come here. Did you marry a beaver? What is this? People are ridiculous. Don't make fun of Joe Biden. Then they made fun of me. And after like the first 2 hours of that, it lasted 36 hours. I said, oh, this is what it's like to have your time in the barrel. I'm going to stop paying attention to these people. Life got better after that. They weren't worth paying attention to because 36 hours later, they were on to the next, let me show you how outraged I am story. 2 people got involved in the outrage. One of those was the despicable Willie Geist at MSNBC. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't even know that he did it. He's like, this is so disgusting. I'm going to make a donation to this group. I had groups saying, we're going to call your program director and get you fired. No one ever called. You want to call my program directors? You want to call my stations and get me fired? Guys, there's a list. I mean, you do what you do. People are going to do what they do. But there was a lot of that. And 36 hours later, some 20,000 post tweets later, they were on to something else. Willie Geist was one of those disgusting, reprehensible people who didn't spend any time actually watching the clip. They just decided to react. The other one was Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper put out a post that said, opens Twitter, sees this, closes Twitter, and then it was something else. It's like, yeah, you're crapping all over me. What's wrong with you? I thought very little of Jake Tapper after that. And the only time I'd really given him true credit was he was a guy not afraid to say that Louis Farrakhan is a bigot, a hateful bigot. Whether it be women, whether it be white people, whether it be Jews, Louis Farrakhan is a hateful bigot. I appreciate him being so honest. And yet here I am now saying, my gosh, Jake Tapper, look at you. Someone put on their big boy pants because he's having a conversation with Melanie Stansbury. Melanie Stansbury is the representative from New Mexico. And I love that I saw somebody on social media say, look how Representative Stansbury just beat up on Jake Tapper. That is not the way any of that happened. Not at all, not in any way. Jake Tapper is discussing the shutdown. Jake Tapper, the host at CNN. And he's pushing this Democratic congresswoman, not senator, congresswoman. Hey, if you want this shutdown to end, if you think there's so many issues with it, where's the pressure you're putting on Senate Democrats to get it done?
Should the Democratic senators from New Mexico, your home state, vote to open the government so that these SNAP funds are not at risk?
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
Now, that's one heck of a line, Representative. The Trump administration is starving children. And as we have discussed and as the data shows, leftist progressives have lost the marketing argument here, the messaging argument here. They've lost it. You could scream about starving children and then Republicans trying to kill them. This is nothing more than Paul Ryan's pushing grandma off the cliff time. We've been through this. No one's buying Representative Stansbury. No one. So Jake Tapper hears this and he's like, yeah, wait, what?
Already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding
their
tactics.
By the White House.
Well,
this is a choice by the White House.
This is also, Congresswoman, this is also a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Yes, it is. I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want Medicaid funds restored. They're doing it because they want Obamacare premiums to be extended past the end of the year. I understand the reasoning.
Sir, let me just be clear. The money for contingency plans is sitting there. That is why the states are suing. The White House is withholding funds from
2 to 3 weeks worth of
SNAP
funds.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it may not be a big deal to you, but let me tell you.
Whoa, 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 whoa. This is a tactic that is utilized when you are engaged in a losing proposition. I, years ago, was talking to a mayor, and we were discussing that, in the kind of center of town where people gather, they had put in this large reflecting pool. And the reflecting pool was already cracked after just a few short years. And then how are you going to fix this? And the reflecting pool was in honor of military veterans. And I said, do you even need a reflecting pool? Why don't we just fill it with sand, make it a volleyball court, and at least people could go out and hang out, watch people play volleyball. It'd be pretty cool. And the mayor responded to me by saying, well, if you don't want to support our veterans. What kind of person says that? Now, it was wrong of me not to say, okay, get out of my studio. We're done here. We're done. You're an unserious human being. A pox on your house. Papa, goodbye. I look back at that moment. I'm like, I was way too nice, because that's just garbage. The argument Jake Tapper is making is that the leftist progressives can open the government anytime they choose. They choose not to. So anything that is happening from the failure of signing the continuing resolution is the fault of the Senate Democrats from beginning to end. These are the facts. Her argument is, well, there's this supplemental. What the White House is saying is, you guys have got things closed. The supplemental, we're now going to have to decide how it gets parsed, so therefore we're not putting it out. Look what you're doing. We don't know how to parse this. Now, is that 100% true? I'm not 100% sure. But be clear about the major argument. This isn't happening if the Senate leftists, or the Senate progressives, vote on the continuing resolution. Jake Tapper says, yes, yes, yes. There's about 2 to 3 weeks left if we utilize those dollars. And her response is, you want children to die too, Jake.
Withholding funds from
2 to 3 weeks worth of SNAP funds.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it may not be a big deal to you, but let me tell you that for the grandparents, for grandparents that literally are feeding their children.
My point is that it's a short-term solution.
In those accounts.
First things first, Representative Stansberry, you bring up grandparents because you're pulling at heartstrings. Grandparents feed grandchildren, not their children. Because if the grandparents are feeding the children, you see where that goes wrong. What? She's the one going down this road. She's the one bringing up the nonsense. Can't I notice that she doesn't have her argument straight? You know what? Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue, and I need to engage some grace. She doesn't give any to Jake Tapper, nor does she give any to Republicans when she says, you want to starve children. But I should give some grace. I got it. I got that. Jake Tapper keeps trying.
It's a short term. At the end of the day, people need to be able to feed their families, and Saturday is when those funds run out.
If you feel so strongly,
Congresswoman,
why not ask the Senate Democrats from New Mexico to vote to open the government so that the SNAP funds?
Sir, I am.
Note the question. A good question. Why not push your Democrat colleagues? I'm sorry, your progressive leftist colleagues. See, I'm going to keep doing that in the Senate to vote for the continuing resolution. She then engages in a sophist's argument. Sophistry. I mean, it's lying. Listen.
The government so that the SNAP funds.
Sir, I am here in the House of Representatives. It is shut down. I am fighting to get the government reopened. I am fighting to get funding put back into SNAP that is already existent, and I am fighting for the American people. I am here. But show me a single Republican that is here. Not a single one is here to make sure that Americans are fed on Saturday. That is why I am here.
That's a sophist's argument. Leftists will cheer that, say, oh, she's so brave, she's so right, and there's, oh, God, she's so terrific. She should run for president. I would totally vote for her. I'll vote for her right now. She's wonderful. Oh, she's so great. Oh, wait, she's white? Oh. No one cares if the House of Representatives is in session. They already voted on the continuing resolution. This is all on the Senate progressives and the Senate leftists. It's all on them. It doesn't matter that you're there. This is like being at your local Best Buy 2 days before Thanksgiving screaming, I want the sale prices. Baby, the sale's in 2 days. What does it matter that you're there? It doesn't. This is for Senate leftists, your brethren, your fellow travelers, for them to vote on and to open the government. And all data points show that you're losing that argument, that people see right through this. And I, for one, am very, very thankful that they do. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Hey guys, I'm just sending something out here. Sorry. It was a very, very late night last night. Look at that. It's nutty. It is nutty. So yeah, I am pretty brutalized. But you may have had a rougher time. So forget any time I'm having. I am forgive my correspondence there. I don't mean to be rude. Oh yes, on Eat, Drink, Smoke, we've got the popular Halloween candies. Because there are some good ones and there are some disgusting ones. And also, I have, as Halloween is coming up, I do like to be helpful. Let me see if I can get this going, and let me get that going. And I'll share with you what I mean by helpful in a minute. Don't forget to go to TonyKatz.com and be a part of what we're doing and subscribe over there. I do have a show sheet that will go up today. I've got some other video that I plan on putting up as well. As I said, it was a late evening. It's the best way I could describe it. But we'll get ready for Halloween. You ready for it there, Landon? Well, you can be on a bender if you want. Nothing wrong with a bender. Wait, there could be many things wrong with a bender. Yes. Gavin Newsom wishes he was Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis is thankful that he is not Gavin Newsom. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, good to be with you. You have Ron DeSantis making the announcement that H-1B visas, no. Oh, it's kicking my butt. Sorry. I have an audio issue there. I am directing today the Florida Board of Governors to pull the plug on the use of these H-1B visas in our universities. We can do it with our residents in Florida or with Americans. And if we can't do it, then, man, we need to really look deep about what is going on with this situation. The H-1B visa. We're talking about bringing in people from other countries to engage work in the United States because they have a kind of specialty, a very specific set of skills. They're all Liam Neeson. So I would argue that if there is a business that's growing and needs a certain skill set, and that certain skill set exists with, let's say, people in India or in Australia, then I really have no issue with it. If it's with people who are from the Communist Chinese Party, I have a massive issue with it. I don't want to stifle American opportunity in that way. But the answer is we need more foreign workers. Not in every instance. And let's argue we could use more foreign workers. It doesn't mean that we can't be selective about from where. This should be our conversation about H-1B visas. Meanwhile, as you know, Halloween is around the corner. And some people are fools and want to dress like creepy clowns, and they want to really scare people, and they want to be menacing and almost threatening. So we here at Tony Katz today have a series of public service announcements for people who want to dress up like a creepy clown.
And now, a public service announcement for anyone who's thinking of dressing like a creepy clown this Halloween.
You die first, get it? Your friends might get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe. You understand me?
This has been a public service announcement for anyone thinking of dressing like a creepy clown this Halloween.
Just trying to help. We want people to have a safe, fun Halloween. In order for that to happen, not only can you not dress like a creepy clown, but for all the people out there handing out candy, no Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls are disgusting. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong and probably going to hell. I'll wish you well there, but it won't go well because for the rest of your life, you'll have to eat Tootsie Rolls. Stop it now. Stop it now. I'm Tony Katz. I want you all to know how serious I am. Tootsie Rolls are disgusting. They're devil scat. And if you eat them, shame on you, and I hope you get divorced. Wait till you hear what I say about your mother if you hand out Tootsie Rolls. That coming up on Tony Katz Today. I apologize for nothing. For nothing. The Skittle is gross. Skittles are gross. But the real issue with the Skittle is that you think you're getting M&Ms when you reach into the bowl. And then it's all this fruity crap, and you're like, there is no God. That's disgusting. They mix M&Ms and Skittles, producer Landon, in the same bowl. Well, those are people who shouldn't reproduce. If Snoop Dogg loves Skittles, Snoop Dogg is wrong. Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee bleh. Secondly, Jim loves Tootsie Rolls. Well, Jim, God, I was going to say something so cruel. I actually caught myself. I'm like, nope, not doing it. Not doing it. By the way, I have had the Arby's steak bites. We reviewed those on Eat, Drink, Smoke, eatdrinksmokeshow.com. That's brisket. That is not steak. That is brisket. Fair. The ones I had weren't, directly out of the whatever the heat element thing they use is. I don't know what they use. So, it was you could argue that it was like an hour old, and so not the same. Fine. I'm not gonna, discourage them from doing it. But it was brisket, not steak, and that's the ball game. And there is a difference. You tell me there's not a difference, man. You think I'm upset about Tootsie Rolls? Oh, hell no! You don't even understand, right? I'm full Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of you. I had to clean that up, right? Bernie Mac. That routine. That routine is so good. But we will take the break right now. The radio show is in break, so we will take the break. Smoke them if you got them. We will be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I've not lit up yet. This is a Rodriguez. Right there. Comes in the cellophane. This is a Rodriguez of Key West. Right there. Yeah, I have not started yet. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Glad you're all here. I don't know. Well, people are now upset with me. How could you disrespect Tootsie Roll like that? That's nothing. Tune in tomorrow. Disrespect Tootsie Roll. Now, someone just made a really good point. If you're okay with a H-1B visa from China, if not from China, but yes, from India, well, India is a BRICS nation. Isn't there an issue there? It's an interesting point. I would argue, though, that our relationship with India is better than our relationship with China. India is not the adversarial nation, although they do work with adversarial nations. There's a big difference in those two things. The real question is, can we get India to stop buying Russian energy? I've been told yes, but I haven't seen the yes. Anyway, we've got a radio show to do. Let's go do that right now. The word on the street is that President Trump believes that those involved in Arctic frost should be investigated. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. You have got the Health and Human Services Secretary. His name is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You've got the FDA Commissioner, Marty Makary. They are set to make an announcement. I'll try and bring that to you the minute it becomes available. But Arctic frost, where there's going to be a press conference later today, should get investigated and people should be put in prison. House Republicans had revealed, there's a lot coming out. They're like, we've got the power. We got to put out this information, get it out before it all gets destroyed. Amazingly, that it hasn't been destroyed. The story is that more than 160 congressional Republicans and former Trump administration officials were under investigation in a Biden-era probe. This was launched in April of 2022. This is about Jack Smith. Now, Jack Smith swears up and down, he's the special counsel. He swears that if he had the opportunity to present the evidence against Donald Trump in classified documents, this, that, and the other, he would have gotten the conviction. I listen. All I know is if who's the guy Selena Gomez is married to? There, producer Landon. Yeah, if I had a chance to meet Selena Gomez before Benny Blanco, she'd be with me today. Well, actually, no, because I'm married to the perfect woman. But you get the point. That's the point. So to say it doesn't make it true by any stretch of the imagination. The size and the scope of the FBI investigation into these alleged efforts, larger than previously known, the committee cited the release of approximately 198 new documents. This committee is chaired by Jim Jordan, saying that 45 individuals, Steve Bannon, Representative Scott Perry, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former DOJ official Jeffrey Clark, former Trump attorney John Eastman, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, were potentially under investigation. This is a deal. This is a big deal. This is about abuse of American citizens. This is abuse of power. And we should look at these things seriously and address them as the serious issues that they are. We shouldn't let these things go by the wayside. Be like, oh, whatever. He's not in office anymore. No big deal. Just move along. No, not moving along. And we shouldn't move along. The story is that this Joe Biden caricature, this grandfatherly guy, this somehow bringing all of America together. Well, no part of that is true. He was, as he always was to his core, vicious, nasty, and downright evil. And you say to me, my gosh, Tony, downright evil? Can't I watch what he did to Clarence Thomas and come to that conclusion? Must I now wait for when he was president to make that statement? Can I at least say disgusting? Can I at least say despicable? No? You can't even say that? I think you could say that. I think you should. We need to look into these things because we have to ask ourselves what level of abuse does take place. And I don't care which party it is. I want an end to the abuse. I don't want this from my government, right or left. If there's an investigation, I've often said I don't get worked up by investigations. I can't start one. I can't stop one. I don't get worked up by them. But you can be on any side of the political aisle and be like, yeah, this is fine. By the way, the investigation that led to the appointment of Special Counsel Jack Smith in November of 2022, that was called Arctic Frost. Merrick Garland, who was the Attorney General at the time, authorized the FBI Washington field office to launch a full investigation into what was described as, quote, an articulable factual basis indicating the existence of a federal crime involving Trump and, quote, individuals closely associated with him. 92 Republicans or conservative line groups and were targeted, including the late Charlie Kirk, the assassinated Charlie Kirk. How much does this smack of, the Soviet police, show me the man and I'll show you the crime? We'll do an investigation. We'll see if there was any wrongdoing. The articulable factual basis is what? What was that Biden administration doing? And to a further point, how much about this did Biden actually know? And how much of this was kept from him because he was mentally incapable of understanding? Investigate deep, guys. Get answers quickly. Let us know. And then while you're at it, could you release more of the Epstein files, please? That would also be great. Thank you so very much. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So I'm looking at a shot here. This is of, I guess, the Department of Health, where we're going to see this announcement that comes regarding drug prices. Now, full disclosure. Hold on a second. No Tootsie Rolls, no Skittles. Next, you're going to say no black licorice. Is your name Marl? Wait, is your name Marl Hellbringer? Because that's what you would bring if you're bringing Tootsie Rolls, Skittles, and black licorice. Don't talk to me like you know things. All three of those things is a sign of the apocalypse. We don't allow that stuff here. Thank you. I'm glad we spoke. So I have not seen, Brian, a 6.5 in the Caribbean. I'm looking at the Geological Survey right now. There was a 5.4 off the coast of Oregon. Remember, there are earthquakes that happen all the time. There was also a 4.8 that took place. That's two things to pay attention to. There's a 4.8 that took place off Guadalupe. But I do not have anything recent regarding a 6.8 quake in the Caribbean. It's not showing up as of yet on the USGS site. So I'm going to say that might be incorrect data. As for this right here, there is a major outage. Now, do you pronounce it Azure? A-Z-U-R-E. Is it Azure? Is it Azure? I'm not sure which way you pronounce it. What I know is that is down. 365 is down. Ladies and gentlemen, right now you cannot play Minecraft. How am I supposed to have a chicken fight if I can't get on to Microsoft? Creeper's going to creep. The kids used to play, so I taught myself how to play. And not bad. Not bad. I just never went into the nether because like that whole thing didn't make sense to me. We're doing too much work here. Stay where you are. What is the ruling on Werther's? Werther's Originals? As Halloween candy? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did I blacked out for a moment because I thought you asked if Werther's Originals could be given out as Halloween candy. But I know you didn't do that, so I'm just going to pretend that did not happen right there. Not gonna pay any attention to what was just said by the way. But we're not going to throw you out of the chat room for asking such a question. I just would appreciate it if you would feel shame. If you could, to some measure, just be like, I have committed a mistake. I am sorry. That is it. Rolos, I think, are fine. I don't know what a bun is, Jim. Maple flavor? I don't know what is. But Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, one of the finest candies out there. You should repent. Honestly, it's like Game of Thrones. I'm going to send Hannah Waddingham behind you screaming shame. But we accept your repentance because we are a forgiving people. They're still not doing drug prices. Tell them we're on a schedule. But if they get to it, I do want to hear it. So we're going to keep it right here with this double screen, if you guys don't mind. Back to the radio show. You've got the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who will be speaking in mere moments, coming to the podium right now. That is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. They're going to talk about lowering drug prices. Now, as a matter of full disclosure, the idea of the government looking at drug companies and saying, lower your drug prices, I don't like. He's with Dr. Marty Makary, who runs the FDA. Let's hear what the secretary has to say.
Country, millions of Americans struggle to afford essential medicines. Families are rationing prescriptions. Seniors are skipping doses, and parents are facing heartbreaking choices between paying for medication or putting food on their tables. This is not acceptable in the United States of America. For decades, Americans accepted a fair deal in pharmaceuticals. A company earns a temporary monopoly for an innovative drug, and once the patent expires, cheaper generics enter the market. That system, established by the 1984 Hatch-Waxman Act, works for traditional chemistry-based drugs. Proving a generic is the equivalent is straightforward. If it's the same active ingredient, the same effect, same safety, it gets approved. But that bargain broke down with biologic drugs, medicines made from living cells. When Congress wrote the Biologics Price Competition and Innovation Act, the pharmaceutical industry rigged the rules. Between 2007 and 2009, Big Pharma spent hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying to make biosimilar approval far more difficult and expensive. They claimed that biologics were too delicate, that they were too mystical to allow true generics. They compared them during these lobbying sessions to fine wines. Each batch supposedly depended upon its unique grapes, the tannin content of its soils, the terrain, the humidity, the genius and personal touches of wizardry to achieve the unique aromatic and flavor complexity of its terroir. It was all clever marketing. None of it was based on science. It was all clever marketing. None of it was based on
That was
science.
just the feed skipping. My
Then to
apologies.
block pharmacists and doctors from switching patients to lower cost options, the lobby invented a fake distinction between biosimilars and interchangeable biosimilars. The result has been sky-high costs, endless red tape, and a biosimilar market that still lags far behind Europe's. It can cost hundreds of millions to us, the federal taxpayer, just to bring one biosimilar to American patients. That changes today. Under President Trump's leadership, we are ending this unscientific and corrupt system. We're cutting through the barriers that protect monopolies and opening the gates to affordable, life-saving medicine for the American people.
What am I missing?
One of the biggest drivers of these crushing costs is the price of prescription drugs, of course, and especially biologic drugs. These are complex medicines made, as I said, from living cells that treat cancer, autoimmune diseases, and rare disorders that affect millions of Americans. Biologics make up only 5% of our prescription, but they account for more than half of our drug spending. Between 2013 and 2021, our spending on biologics more than doubled from $100 billion to $260 billion. By 2024, it reached $407 billion. Some biologics cost patients up to $500,000 a year or even more.
So this is the
That's not a
Secretary of Health and
healthcare
Human
system.
Services.
It's a
This
hostage
is
crisis.
Robert F.
Why
Kennedy
are these
Jr.
drugs
talking
so
about lowering
expensive?
drug prices.
Because
This
the too
this
far
is
government bureaucracy
creating
and
creating
regulatory
biologics
barriers have
like
protected
chemical
monopolies
drugs.
and stifled competition.
That's what I think they're saying
The
here. They're not
FDA's
talking about
outrageous
getting rid of
burdensome approval process
copyrights or patents
has
on those
slowed down
things.
the entry of
I just want to make sure I heard
biosimilars
that
for
right.
lower cost, equally safe alternatives to brand name biologics. And even when biosimilars do get approved, current laws often prevent pharmacists or patients from substituting them for the patients who would benefit from a more affordable option. That all ends today. Today, the FDA is taking bold, decisive action to break down these barriers and open the markets for real competition. The agency will release new draft guidance for companies developing biosimilars, guidance that reflects modern science and common sense. Under this new framework, companies may not always need to conduct large, expensive human trials when advanced testing can already prove that biosimilars work just as effectively and just as safely as the original drug. The FDA will also consolidate several outdated guidance documents into one streamlined rulebook. We're cutting unnecessary red tape, reducing uncertainty, and making it easier for innovators to bring the safe, affordable biosimilars to the market.
So if someone creates a biologic and now other groups have something similar in scope, they can bring it without, well, he's not saying they can bring it without the testing, right? If you argue the concept of the generic, a pill has been around for X number of years, a level of patent goes away, and now you can create generic versions of that drug. That's one argument. He seems to be arguing, and I could be wrong about this, that if you create a similar drug, well, that's fine, and you don't have to go through the same levels, and therefore you can create what? Lower prices? Again, I need to hear more.
Families and for the American taxpayer. But America still lags far behind Europe and other nations. In Europe, for example, regulators have approved more than twice as many biosimilars as the United States, and patients there are paying far less for many of these treatments. These reforms reflect President Trump's directive to restore competition, to empower patients, and lower drug costs for every American. This is a victory for patients, for innovation and for common sense. We're replacing bureaucracy with science. We're replacing monopolies with competition. And we're replacing despair with hope. Every American, regardless of income or zip code, deserves access to affordable, effective, and safe medicine. The actions we're taking today move us closer to that goal and advance our mission to make America healthy again.
So that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. speaking. I'm gonna, when he turns it over to Mehmet Oz is there too for Senator Medicare Medicaid. He's going to speak, and Dr. Marty Makary is also going to speak. I want to take it to Dr. Makary, FDA commissioner, and hear his take on this.
Prices for everyday Americans. We're interested in everyday Americans. There's been a lot of talk about healthcare costs, a lot of talk about reducing drug prices. But as you've seen from the Oval Office, thanks to the good work of Dr. Mehmet Oz and his team at CMS, you're now seeing medications come down to a price point of pennies on the dollar. Reforms that have been discussed for 35 years but have never translated into action in most favored nation status pricing. I'm happy to contribute with our reform at the FDA to this incredible movement to lower drug prices, not by 1 or 2%, but significantly. If you haven't noticed, healthcare costs have gone way up since the promise of the Affordable Care Act to make the price of health insurance premiums more affordable, lowering them by $2,500. Within 7 years, they went up by $2,500, the opposite direction of the promise. The fastest growing area of healthcare spending in the United States is drug spending. And the fastest area of drug spending increases is with this new class of medicines called biologics. That's because they are derived from cell lines. It's an expensive process to develop biologics. So they are naturally going to cost more, but not 1,000 times more, not 10,000 times more. I've seen biologics work wonders, as Dr. Oz has in the hospital. Our patients, I've seen cancer patients get biologics with results almost visible during the treatment.
I'm glad there are results. I'm not arguing against biologics. I'm asking, how are you lowering these prices? Again, if the argument is force, I'm out. If the argument is a reduction of regulation or a change in mechanism, as long as the mechanism is safe, I'm in. So right now, I'm maybe I'm missing it, right? It's not my ballywick. But it seems like what they're saying is the latter. They're changing methodologies that they believe better follows today's science, that will allow for more opportunities for more competition, thus lower prices. Tell me why I would argue that. Why in the world would I argue such a thing? Now, maybe there's an argument, right? Just because the White House puts it out or the administration puts it out doesn't mean that we should be like, well, case closed. No. In every situation, in every case, with every take, we should be asking, is this the right idea? If we are saying a reduction in regulation to create opportunities, to create more competition, I think I favor this. Now, if you're now going to tell people that they don't have their patents, well, that's a whole different thing. But if you're going to say we're doing this via some level of force and we're now basically extracting the patent, I again say that this is not what we want. That is too much government power. I don't care who the president is. So we have to dig in a little deeper here, because the moving on lowering prescription drug prices by some level of government force is not what we should be down for. Wanting to say competition is good and how do you open that up? All in favor. I think I've made my position clear. Now I have to understand what it is that's being said here. We'll have more on this. I will get to it. This is Tony Katz Today.
Red tape hurdles. There's
Let's
about
hear what they have to say.
76 that the FDA has approved since we
What do
started
you think he's
approving
saying? Which way do you think this is going?
biosimilars. Think of biosimilars as the generic version of the expensive biologics. We have 76 that we've approved in 10 years, probably should have been 200 or 300. But there's a series of onerous requirements that the FDA has had, making the process long and expensive for the makers of these biosimilar equivalents. Today, the FDA is issuing draft guidance to eliminate the onerous requirement of comparative studies that have historically been associated with biosimilars and their approval. We don't have these additional requirements for generics. Moving forward, we're not going to have them for biosimilars. This reform will take the 5 to 8 year time frame to bring a biosimilar to market and cut it in half. It will also save companies about $100 million in their development costs. That'll take the cost down from $200 million down to $100 million, or $250 million down to $150 million. I'm giving you real numbers that companies have shared with me on their costs. Lower prices for drug development means lower R&D costs and lower drug prices for everyday Americans. Today, the FDA is also announcing its plans to issue final guidance on interchangeability, something the Secretary just described, eliminating the bureaucratic switching studies that have been required. When a doctor prescribes a branded small molecule, the patient and their pharmacist can have that substituted out for a generic small molecule, but not so with biosimilars. We are taking a strong stand to advance and promote interchangeability. Congress has been talking about this for a long time, but we're taking action. We encourage them to act, but in the meantime, we're not wasting time. When Humira, the powerful biologic which works wonders, came off patent, it took 7 years for a biosimilar to come to market. Why? Because of these burdensome, onerous, bureaucratic red tape requirements in part at the FDA. The fundamental problem in healthcare is that we have non-competitive markets. It's something we don't talk about. It's a sacred cow topic. But the solution is to convert them to competitive markets. We want to see more biosimilars. We want to see more competition, more choices. When the first biosimilar came on the market 7 years after Humira's patent expired, prices really didn't go down. Call it an implied collusion of prices. But it takes typically until 2 or 3 biosimilars come to market to see the prices really drop. That's why we need to reduce the hurdles and get more biosimilars on the market. Right now, we're not doing well. We walked into a mess. Of all the biologics, the expensive biologics that, again, are amazing, that are about to come off patent in the next 10 years, only 10% have a biosimilar in development. It should be 30% or 40% or more.
Okay. So I think I'm understanding from Marty McCary that we're saying here's a biologic. Now there's a way to mimic these biologics by us creating an easier path to get that done. My issue here is, what of the protection of the people who did the work to create the drug to begin with? I am not sold. Right now, I'm not sold. I think I'm getting a little 3-card Monty thing happening here. That's it. Now, should we listen to Dr. Oz for a second? We can do that.
For Medicare, increasing faster than that in Medicaid, and it's increasing about 9% for the commercial insurance.
I'm going to get to some other stuff, guys. I got to keep it. I'm going to keep moving right here. That's all right by you. And thank you.
The Secretary Rubio about it. I've joked with the secretary about it. So the president first raised this with me probably 6 months or so ago,
right?
During just one of our private lunches that we try to get lunch every couple of weeks just to catch up on what's going on and talk about things. He mentioned it probably 6 months or so ago, and I mentioned to the secretary in jest, but it feels so premature because we're still so early. And what I always say to people is, if we take care of business, the politics will take care of itself. And we're 9 months into this thing. We've done a lot of good. There's a lot more work to do because, look, the thing that I most worry about is that Biden left us a terrible affordability crisis. We've got to make life more affordable for American citizens. Again, we've chipped away at that problem, but there's a lot more work to do there. So my attitude is, the American people elected me to be vice president. I'm going to work as hard as I can to make the president successful over the next 3 years and 3 months. And if we get to a point where something else is in the offer, let's handle it then. But let's at least get through the next couple of years and do good work for the American people.
You want to be president of the United States, JD Vance. I'm sorry. I'm not listening to any of this. And you know it. It's okay. We're all in on the gag. We're all in on the joke. We're all in on the thing. You know it. I know it. We all know it. You want to be president of the United States.
Or we talk about politics.
The president doesn't mention who will be running for president and who vice president. Now, everyone assumes it would be you, but Marco Rubio is 13 years older. He's run for president before. Would there be any tension there?
First of all, no, there's not going to be any tension. Marco is my best friend in the administration. He and I work a lot together.
Right.
And we really do, I think, a lot of the good work that we've been able to do as an administration is because we're all able to work together.
And you have sleepovers, and it's fantastic. Listen to me carefully, sir. Sir, you want to be president. And yes, I would have believed that Marco Rubio is the guy you speak to most often. I can't see a JD Vance hanging around with Howard Lutnick, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, what is going on, boo-boo? Find everything at TonyKatz.com, 833-468-8669, 833 got Tony. You want to be president? It's okay. So do I. I think you have a better shot at it. But the quote he used is, he never wakes up and thinks of it to himself, how do I make myself president of the United States? Yes, you have. And that is not a bad thing. I can name for you 9,000 Democrats who have done exactly that. Gerald Nadler once said to himself, he like maneuvered himself over to the mirror and said, how do I make myself president today? And then he looked into the mirror and he said, oh yeah, that's never going to happen. And then he went about his day. Of course you have. Don't tell us no. Don't tell us no at all. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer is out there with the ever popular Trump is starving children gambit.
Recognizing hunger. He's turning millions of children and seniors and veterans into political pawns. He's choosing politics over people, cruelty over compassion. And let's be clear about this. They've been on a crusade. The Republicans have been on a crusade against SNAP all year. They slashed it by $200 billion this summer to pay for their tax cuts for billions.
Whoa, for billionaires, blah, 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 blah. Did I cut him up before I said billionaires?
For billionaires?
You mean your donors, Chuck? Listen, if I were you, I would get your Senate leftist progressives there to vote for the continuing resolution because it's all on you. It doesn't matter what you said here. I share it just so people see exactly how much spin is going on. But this is on you, kitten. And I have got the proof of that. We'll get to that in a little bit. I did have a couple more stories, if you don't mind. A couple things that I wanted to get to. This was, speaking of the shutdown, this was, again, MSNBC doing the very hard work of being as ridiculous as the day is long, discussing the shutdown and why extending the Obamacare subsidies is a good thing.
They want an extension on these healthcare subsidies. That would be the political win. I would imagine without it, is there any saving face?
Yeah, I think there is. And look, I think there's a bipartisan win here for both sides of this conversation because the subsidies are wildly popular with both Democrats and Republicans. You've got 30,000 people in the Speaker's district who have health care because of the subsidies. You've got 51,000 in the Senate Majority Leader's state because of these subsidies. And so to answer your question, extending those subsidies is the win. And it's only $35 billion a year. Again, we just gave Argentina $40 billion, but we...
Stop. Everyone just stop. Take a moment. It's only $35 billion a year. That is a remarkable statement. First, are Obamacare subsidies popular? Did I miss something? I mean, someone tell me. Yes or no? Where you live, are Obamacare subsidies popular? I'd love an answer to that question. Secondly, I believe I was the guy and we were the show that said, Trump's going to extend these subsidies. He's a populist and he's going to see it as popular and he's going to extend the subsidies. That's going to happen. And what Democrats are most bothered by is Trump's going to steal the subject from them and they won't even be able to campaign on it. What their strategist, if you will, is putting out there is the recipe that Democrats absolutely don't want. They don't want to share credit. They want it all, and they want to be able to say, we brought Donald Trump to his knees. We showed those Republicans wanted to starve babies, but we showed them. It's a remarkable statement. And they say it without shame. It's only $35 billion a year. If Obamacare is so great, why do you need the subsidies to begin with? And if we're going to make a comparison to Argentina, we at least get, by the way, it was $20 billion in credit swaps. There could be other trade packages going on, but we're talking about getting $20 billion in their Argentinian peso, them getting $20 billion US dollars. They're getting the better end of the deal on here. I can appreciate that people are like, what in the bloody heck is going on? But it's not like we just said, here it is, and we get nothing in return. Well, Tony, $35 billion in Obamacare subsidies, you get healthier Americans. The argument here is a health care plan we were told was better, and it's not. We were told was going to lower costs, and it doesn't. We were told it was going to save lives, and now it only saves lives if we subsidize people. Doesn't seem like much of a plan. Doesn't seem like it actually worked. Doesn't seem like any value was created from it. And we should say so. But it's only $35 billion. That is something. But maybe not as much something as the Democratic candidate for Senate. I'm sorry, the leftist progressive, and in this case, Nazi tattoo having candidate for Senate in Maine, Graham Plattner, who is shocked, I say, to learn that gambling is happening in this establishment.
I mean, I'm a regular guy who has lived I'm not going to say a regular life, but I was certainly not ever preparing to run for the United States Senate. And so I spent, many years commenting on the internet. I figured somebody was going to go through all that stuff at some point. That I expected. I will say the tattoo I did not expect. The tattoo thing, I've had it for 20 years. I've gone through multiple security clearances. I've been taking my shirt off in front of other people and taking photographs the entire time.
Exactly how often do you take off your shirt? And when did this become a progressive qualification for running for Senate? What? Since when did saying protege of Frank the Tank end up as a line on your CV? And Jen Psaki is just sitting there going, tell me more, Graham. You're dreamy. And you sound like every giant I've ever heard of from a child's fantasy book. He has a super low voice. Did you catch that? Like that is impressive right there. That you could do some voiceover work there, right? And considering you're taking off the shirt and Nazi tattoos from some very specific OnlyFans porn voiceover work. There's only like 3 or 4 of you up for the gig. I say your odds are very good. Right? You should listen. Whatever your fetish. His safe word is Guten Tag. They're still pushing this guy. They're still rolling with this guy. So in a course of just a few minutes, what we have learned is that the progressives have decided that they're losing the messaging battle. So their new tact is Trump is starving children. Then they think you should have to give up more money for Obamacare subsidies after you already got screwed out of your doctrine plan because it's only $35 billion. And Nazi tattoos don't mean anything. But calling people you disagree with Nazis means everything. And we learned that J.D. Vance is clearly thinking about being president every single day. Because, of course, he is. But there's a lot of people thinking this. A lot of people. And no one should think, no matter what Trump says, that J.D. Vance is going to somehow get the nomination all by himself. That ain't happening. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I'm looking for a very, very specific image, but I cannot, as of yet, tell you what it is. Hold on. That's not what I wanted. There it is. All right. Look at that. Hair's just flying all over the place today. It's nutty. Did Whoopi Goldberg really say that? Did Whoopi Goldberg really say, stop investigating a man who's not in office? Sometimes, kids, we live in the upside down. We're going to find out about rate cuts. That will come. Should I play that? Like, sometimes I'm like, we don't talk about hard enough news, but I do think we enjoy ourselves more. We get to the subjects. That's not what we don't. We did Arctic Frost. We did Trump, South Korea. We're talking about interest rates. We did the whole, thing about the shutdown with the Jake Tapper nonsense. We, shared the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I'm not giving myself enough credit. We're covering a bunch. Covering a bunch. We're back in a minute.
It's kind of crazy. I kind of agree with him. If you, instead of investigating a man who's no longer in office, I would like y'all to find out why the U.S. military is striking vessels without verifying who's in them.
Yeah.
If you want to discuss Whoopi Goldberg, no, not if you want to discuss Whoopi Goldberg. No. If you want to discuss, and now I'm turning to Whoopi Goldberg, who you just heard right there, the taking out of drug boats, that's fine. But that has nothing to do with your previous sentence as the Attorney General is taking a look at the Biden administration and the auto pen pardons as we get the story from the House Oversight Committee regarding the utilization of the auto pen and the very clear understanding that I believe exists that Joe Biden may not have been aware who was getting a pardon, and therefore none of those pardons should count. Tony Katz today. But you have the audacity to say this?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I kind of agree with him. If you, instead of investigating a man who's no longer in office, I would like y'all to find out why the U.S. military is striking vessels without verifying who's in them.
You investigated Donald Trump for 4 years. The Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, ran for office discussing how she was going to go after Donald Trump. Now, when it's Joe Biden, we don't investigate people when they're out of office? Is this the new standard? Because if so, I cannot wait for 2028. January 21st, 2029. New president comes in. And can we stop with the whole Trump's running for a third term? I know what he says on Air Force One. I know it drives people crazy. Isn't that why he says it? It's so very, very obvious. If you've ever had a little brother who put their gross, ugly, dirty pointer finger right next to your cheek and said, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. That's Donald Trump to the left. I'm not touching you. Why would you fall for this? Oh, I'm sure there are some people in MAGAville and the political right to be like, oh, yeah, you know, you can do this. The Constitution doesn't say this, and he can run for a third term. No, he can't. Stop it. Moving on. You don't want people to be investigated when they're already out of office? I want to see where Whoopi Goldberg is January 21st, 2029. Where she will be is probably still on The View saying, we really need to investigate Donald Trump because you see what he did were crimes. Well, how do you know that? Because I feel that way. And how I feel is the most important thing in the world. All the world should be based on my feelings. My feelings are the one ring to rule us all. And in the darkness of The View, bind us. These people. And they speak from, like, they believe that wholeheartedly. And never once asked themselves, wait a second, does that make me a hypocritical freak? And the answer is yes. I'm Tony Katz. Goodness gracious. These people. I adore you. Hold on a second. Some people, I voted for Trump 3 times. I support him on the border. I want to see these trade deals turn into real dollars. I support him on the shutdown. I have no issue with the ballroom. I support redistricting. I'm not a fan of tariffs. And I like something Ron DeSantis did. So I've got this guy on Twitter who sometimes is polite and sometimes is a loon. Tony Katz just announced that he's not giving up on Ron DeSantis until Iowa caucus again. I was in favor of DeSantis. DeSantis couldn't figure out how to run a race. I said, okay, Trump's the guy. Now let's go win. But in the world of MAGAville, and this is what he's most upset by, you can't be talking about MAGAville. You're always attacking MAGAville. Your belief is all or nothing, and my belief is to your belief. I don't care, man. I want you to be happy. I want us to go about winning. When I see an issue, I'm going to say so. And your argument is you're not allowed to see an issue. And that stuff is leftist, progressive, weird. I want no part of it. If I see an issue, I'm going to say so. That's what normal people do. You want fealty. I want honesty. These are different things. Unbelievable. And yes, people are going to run against J.D. Vance. Right now, if the race was right now, they would consider Vice President Vance to be weak. Who knows where we'll be in a couple of years. But the ego to run for president is pretty massive, and people who are going to run. And they're not going to worry about the fact that J.D. Vance is vice president. They ain't going to care. They're going to see if they can raise money, and they're going to go out there and put out their story. Who doesn't know this? No, you must have absolute fealty. You cannot say a word. Just people, could we be normal? Just normal for a few minutes. It's okay. It's okay. Big tent, big arms, big hug. You know, it's hard out here for a pimp. True story. I appreciate you guys so very, very much. Back tomorrow at noon. You should join me then. The radio show continues at WIBC.com. Speaker Mike Johnson, all about where progressive leftists are with the shutdown and why I've given up calling them Democrats, because that's over. Democrats still exist, just not in the leadership. Just so we're perfectly clear. Appreciate you very, very, very much. And I'll catch you tomorrow at noon. And don't forget Tony Katz in the Morning News, 6 a.m., WIBC.com. You should tune in for that as well. Tomorrow, everyone, take care.